Hey there, race fans. It's race day, top five with me, Frank Five. A new round is officially underway in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs in 2020 in Viva Las Vegas, where you cash in or you crap out. And last night, someone cashed in big. Did we see this coming, folks? I don't think so. Let's get to it. Number one, Kurt Busch, Las Vegas, Nevada native, finally has won a NASCAR race this season. The 2004 champion of the NASCAR Cup Series got his first victory of the 2020 season last night in Las Vegas, winning the South Point Hotel and Casino 400 over Matt DiBenedetto, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Alex Bowman, the top five. Did we really see this coming? Did we see Kurt Busch cashing in big ahead of the likes of Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex, and others? I don't think so. Kurt Busch has had a fairly quiet, consistent year like he normally does. He normally runs in the top 10, top 5, and sometimes we don't really talk about him, and then in the end you look at the results and say, oh wait, look, there's Kurt Busch in the top 5, top 10. Hardly spoke his name all day. Kurt Busch has been quiet for the most part this season. He hadn't won a race, obviously, as I mentioned. This is his first win of the year. He hadn't really won a race this year, but he also didn't really have any playoff points coming into the playoffs. He, along with brother Kyle Busch, were at the bottom of the bottom four going into the playoffs in the round of 16. Both advanced, and both were in the bottom four entering last night's race in Las Vegas. And at the end, Kurt Busch, who was kind of a little bit off pace for the most part, he was kind of around the top 10, top 15 for the most part, just trying to get the best possible finish he could before having to try to move into next weekend's race. But then all of a sudden, under green flag pit stops with about 25 laps to go, Jimmy Johnson cuts down a right rear tire, and that shakes up the running order of the field. Kurt Busch had yet to make his pit stop, and he and Matt McCall decided, we're going to come in and pit after everybody else got trapped a lap down. They stayed out a couple more laps, and that call worked out to their favor. They were able to take the lead, and they were able to hold everybody off in a couple of late race restarts, and trying to hold off Matt DiBenedetto, who's looking for his first career win and the 100th win for the Wood Brothers. Kurt Busch, on an overtime restart, was able to hold off the likes of DiBenedetto and all the playoff guys, fellow playoff contenders, from catching him, and he was able to pull through and get his first win at his home track in Las Vegas. Yes, Kurt Busch entering last night, he had an average finish at this track, I think, of 20th or below 20th. This track has not been kind to Kurt Busch whatsoever, but last night, that didn't really matter because he was able to break through and get his first win. I'm really happy. I like Kurt Busch a lot, and I mentioned in my little playoff prediction video for how the playoffs are going to go this year, I wouldn't be shocked if Kurt Busch made it to the round of 8 because he's that good, he's quiet, he's consistent, and sometimes he's able to sneak in no matter what the outcome is. And last night, a big outcome for Kurt Busch. He's locked himself in the round of 8 and possibly has thrown himself as a dark horse to win the championship. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Kurt Busch made the championship four because he is a former champion, he's consistent, he just needs luck to go on their side, and last night they got lucky with that late race caution, staying on, not yet pitting, but they also had a good track position being out front. They had to hold off everybody on those wild restarts, which were just bonkers. Those restarts at Vegas, and these mile and a halves, no matter what type of mile and a half it is. Vegas, fun, Charlotte, and Chicagoland, and Kansas, they're fun to watch. They're just 3 and 4 wide. They're just unbelievably awesome to watch. Number 2, Denny Hamlin, trying to come off what was a pretty mediocre round of 16, despite all the playoff points he accumulated in the regular season with wins and stage wins. Denny Hamlin last night put together a really solid performance. He led the most laps. He clearly had the dominant car. He won the first stage, and it looked like he was going to break through and get another win, which would help up him towards the conversation of contending with Kevin Harvick, who was so strong in the round of 16 and had been strong leading up to the beginning of the playoffs in the end of the regular season. But Hamlin was caught by that caution with about 25 to go, and he had been put a lap down. He got the wave around, was able to get his lap back, and drove through the field on fresh tires, was able to get to third. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get up there and contend with Kurt Busch and Matt DiBenedetto. But still a solid result for Denny Hamlin, already off to a better start than he was in the round of 16. Despite all those playoff points accumulated, he didn't have a single top 10 in the round of 16. He's got a top 5 so far, so he should feel pretty comfortable in these next couple of races. He should be a virtual lock by the end of next week's race to put himself in the round of 8 and get one step closer to being in the championship 4 and getting that long-awaited championship in Phoenix in November. Number 3, Alex Bowman picked up right where he went off at the beginning of the season, where Alex Bowman Before the pandemic hit, Alex Bowman was in a contract year, and he needed to step up and run so consistent and so well for Hendrick Motorsports. He needed to have good, solid performances and most likely win races to convince Hendrick, I can be on your team and I can bring you race wins and championships. This year, he won at California and got him an extension to be with the team for next year. And then after the pandemic, and after we came back, he got a couple of good races, but not so good results. And then in the summer, we kind of lost touch with Alex Bowman. We didn't know whether or not he was going to be bringing that back, that performance he had in the beginning of the year before the pandemic hit, that he would be able to come back and bring that effort into the playoffs. Well, the round of 16, he did pretty good, had a couple good races. And last night, he definitely showed up, running in the top 5 the entire night. It looked like for a moment, and he got the lead. He was going to haul off Denny Hamlin, and Hamlin got it back. And Bowman, like Hamlin and a lot of the other playoff guys, were caught by that caution late in the race, but he was able to get the wave run and got his way up to a 5th place finish. But as the playoffs stand right now, he's currently the last guy in, 9 points above the cut line. 9 points. That's not a lot. And going to a track next week, which I'm going to explain at the end of this video, which can definitely shake out the playoff grid, Alex Bowman better go in next week and better run the race of his life if he's going to make it into the round of 8. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Bowman got eliminated. But so far, last night's race result and performance shows that he has a car and a team that can get to the round of 8 and maybe make the championship 4 if things go their way. But still, Bowman had a really good run, and he had a good run at this race earlier this year in Vegas, and he had a good run here last year. So Bowman's pretty good these mile-and-a-halfs in Vegas. So, I mean, mile-and-a-half track is where he got his first career win, and that was at Chicagoland last year in the battle against Kyle Larson. Number 4, Kyle Busch, like brother Kurt Busch, came into this round below the cutoff line with no bonus points. Kyle Busch put together a 6th place result last night, but he didn't really have a race-winning car, and he had some drama with Joey Logano, who he kind of called out for blocking him late in the race last weekend in Bristol, which allowed Kevin Harvick to steal the lead back from Kyle. And he obviously went on to win the race. Kyle Busch had contact with Joey Logano last night, and that forced Logano to pit with a tire rub, but he was able to get back on the lead lap, but it was too late in the race, and he had to settle for 14th place. Kyle Busch door slammed his brother Kurt Busch on the cooldown lap, congratulating him because Kyle's won at Vegas before and Kurt hadn't, so he's giving him a little brotherly tap saying congrats, bro. But Kyle Busch, because of Kurt's win, he's below the cut line by 9 points. He's the first guy out behind Alex Bowman. And I said this, Kyle Busch doesn't deserve to make it to the round of 8 the way he's been performing this year. There has been no race-winning performance in Kyle Busch's cars whatsoever. There's been a couple races where he's been in the top 5. I mean, Bristol, yes, he could have won that race, but I haven't seen other racetracks where he's had race-winning cars. Kyle Busch, with the lack of practice and qualifying this year, basically not at all because of COVID, he has not been able to put together race-winning cars in practice and qualifying to see what they need to be competitive on race day. So Kyle Busch's 6th place finish is a good result, but it doesn't help him in the points scenario at all. He could jump in next weekend because, again, it's going to be the biggest, the baddest super speedway that we go to. Kyle has a chance to advance next week, but he could also has a chance to get himself eliminated next week and the Roval, because the Roval, he doesn't have a single top 10 in the first 2 races we've been there so far. So Kyle Busch, fans, be a little bit concerned and possibly be prepared for an early elimination. I mean, he could get in, but it's highly unlikely the way they've been this year. And number 5, the bottom guys below the cutoff line, as I mentioned, Kyle Busch is one of them, but also there's Clint Bowyer down by 20, Eric Almirola down by 27, and Austin Dillon, the Cinderella story, down by 32. Clint Bowyer was at times in the top 5, top 10, but he fell back late in the race. He didn't really have the best result. Eric Almirola struggled for the most part, which is kind of puzzling because their mile-and-a-half program this year has actually been really well. And Austin Dillon has shown so much potential in these playoffs that he could be the Cinderella story to get into possibly the round of 8. And last night he was in the top 10, but unfortunately on one of the late pit stops, he got caught for too many men over the wall when his crew member lost his balance and fell onto the pit wall, exceeding the limit of pit crew members allowed to go over the wall and work on the car, whether it's to change tires or put fuel in it. Austin Dillon had to restart the tail on the longest line and had to fight his way back, which was tough. And then he lost his power steering, and he had to come in and he fell down 7 laps. So, I mean, be quite honest, I mean, we all admitted at the beginning of this round we should take the 3 seriously, and they had a serious run last night. But the bad luck hit him with the loss of power steering and that penalty for too many men over the wall. So this is probably the end for Austin Dillon, though. He could win Talladega next weekend, though it's highly unlikely because you have the chance to win, but you also have a better chance of getting caught up in a big crash at Talladega, and that's what it's known for. The big crashes with the tight pack racing, it's going to be absolutely tough for Austin Dillon in advance, but there's still a chance. But those 4 drivers have to pull a rabbit's foot and have a lucky charm with them when they go to Talladega next weekend. Finally, driver recap: Chase Elliott, 22nd place finish. Not the result that shows how good our car was last night. Elliott had a top 3 race car. He won stage 2, which was 10 points added to the 7 that we accumulated in the first stage, and a bonus point to help us for the playoffs. We have our bonus point total to, I believe it's 18 right now. Elliott was in the top 5 the entire night, but he was also caught by that late race caution for Jimmy Johnson cutting the tire down. We took the wave run, got our lap back, and we worked our way into the top 10. And then on the green, white, checker restart, we were trying to make a move to the outside of Ryan Newman, and Ryan Newman just wouldn't go, and he backed us up, and we went from a possible top 10 to a 22nd place finish, and now 10 points above the cut line. This isn't the first time I've had a problem with Ryan Newman when it comes to Chase Elliott. He blocked and prevented him from winning Dover a couple years ago. Kyle Busch caught him, and Kyle passed Elliott. I've had a problem with Newman. I mean, that was clearly. I blame Ryan Newman for blocking Elliott last night. I mean, he's the toughest guy to pass. I understand Newman. We're trying to battle for a championship. You didn't even make the playoffs. You missed the season, obviously, because of your crash at Daytona, and we're thankful that you survived, obviously. But Ryan Newman, I mean, literally, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you cost us 31. We had 31 points on that last restart, and then in the checker flag through, we're 10 points above the cut line. Going to Talladega, where a track we've won at, but we've also been caught up in wrecks at. So, a little bit edgy. I still think he's going to make it. I mean, because the Roval's coming up, and he most likely might win that race because he won there last year, and he won the only road course we've been at this year, which is the Daytona road course. He just flat out dominated that race. He probably won the Roval. But, really disappointed in Ryan Newman right now. But we had a really good race car. We had a great race car there earlier this year, but we had a tire go down. This time, we got blocked by Ryan Newman, the toughest guy to pass in the restart. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that, but still, we had good speed in our car, and we've had good speed throughout these playoffs. We've been a top 5, 6, 7 car for the most part, like I expected that we would be. So, you know, can't totally complain. At least we're above the cut line, or at least we're not below like Kyle and Clint and Eric and Austin are right now. So hopefully we'll still advance. I think he will, and if he does, he has a good chance to get to Phoenix. So LA fans, stay optimistic. I'm optimistic too. It's not over yet, obviously. We have 2 races to go, and we have 2 opportunities and 2 tracks that we've won at, and we can get our way into the round of 8. One quick thing, couple of things I need to mention before I sign off and look ahead to next weekend. Big news this weekend in the NASCAR community. Bubba Wallace has arrived for 2021, and you'll never guess what it is with, who it is with. It is with Denny Hamlin, an NBA star, one of the greatest of all time, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, MJ, are starting a NASCAR team in 2021 with backing from Joe Gibbs Racing and taking the charter from the 13 team, which will shut down at the end of this year. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin are forming a NASCAR Cup team in 2021. Michael Jordan will be the majority owner, and Denny Hamlin will be the minority owner, while he'll also be driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. And Denny was asked who will the driver be. He said it's pretty simple. Bubba Wallace is the driver. This is huge for Bubba. Obviously, he's been a big leader this year in multiple ways, as far as like the move for equality in NASCAR and in all generations and all types of ethnicity and everything. Bubba Wallace has done a really good job this year, and he's had a fairly good year with the Richard Petty team overall. He's had 5 top 10s this year, which is the highest he's had in his entire Cup career so far through his first 3 seasons. And he's got a chance next year to possibly win races and maybe make the playoffs and be a much better race team than what the 43 car is right now. The 43's made strides this year, but this team with Joe next year that is going to get some alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing is critical, and it's huge. Now, do I think they're going to make the playoffs? We'll see it about that. I'll make my prediction about that by next year. But this is awesome for having Michael Jordan come in and run NASCAR team. This is big. We've been lacking bringing in more diversity into the sport. And one of the greatest NBA stars of all time, a 6-time champion in the NBA Finals, owning a NASCAR team is great. And it'll bring in diversity. It'll bring in fans who love Michael Jordan in the NBA. They can come to NASCAR and see how he does running a NASCAR team. This is amazing. This is huge for our sport. No matter what you may think about, what's going on in our country right now, this is huge for NASCAR, and I'm a big fan of this, and I hope Michael Jordan has great success in the sport as a team owner. And another bit of news I need to share, Ross Chastain is coming to the Cup Series this year full-time. Ross Chastain is going to be driving the number 42 car for Chip Ganassi Racing in 2021. I mean, this really wasn't a big surprise. There was a lot of talk that Ross Chastain probably was going to be coming to the Cup Series next year. Will be in the 42 car. Pretty big weekend for Ganassi. They signed a new driver for next year, one of the future stars in Ross Chastain, and their driver, veteran Kurt Busch, won a race this weekend in his hometown. Pretty awesome weekend for Ganassi overall. I like that Chastain's going to be paired with Kurt Busch next year. It's going to be huge. They're going to have great chemistry. They're going to work together, and they're going to have a ball. And I got a good feeling both those guys will be in the playoffs in 2021. Of course, Matt Kenseth, obviously in the 42 car this year because of Kyle Larson's mistake earlier this year for uttering a racial slur while competing on a live iRacing event. Matt Kenseth came in and really hasn't done well, but Ross Chastain coming in next year is going to help that 42 car a ton. They're going to be much more better this year, next year, than they have been this year. So big news out of the NASCAR community this week as far as free agency for next year. So it's pretty awesome for Michael Jordan being a NASCAR owner. Bubba Wallace is going to be the driver, and Ross Chastain is being promoted to the Cup Series for Chip Ganassi Racing. Big news for this weekend, but very positive news for our sport. So, upcoming race for the round of 12, the second race, Talladega, baby. Oh my goodness. 3 and 4 wide, literally white knuckle racing. It's a chess match game. Who will survive? Who will be caught up in the big one? And who could possibly win and punch their ticket to the round of 8? We shall see what happens. Talladega is going to be a ball, baby. It's going to be an absolute ball in Sweet Home Alabama, where the skies are so blue. Learn Skinner lyrics, by the way. Anyways, that'll be all for this race recap. Subscribe, like. Congrats to Kurt Busch. First win of the year. He's going to the round of 8. Up next, Talladega, baby. Have a good week.